Have you ever reached a point where silence felt safer than people? Not angry silence, not dramatic silence, just a quiet decision inside your chest that said, I am done. Done explaining, done forgiving, done trying. And in that moment, cutting everyone off did feel cruel. It felt necessary. You did to wake up cold. You did to suddenly stop caring. Something built up inside you, disappointments that stacked quietly, conversations where you felt unheard, effort that was never matched, respect that slowly faded. Your mind kept track, even when you tried not to, and one day the weight became too heavy. So you did what your brain is designed to do when it feels overwhelmed. You protected yourself. Psychology calls this emotional overload. When stress becomes constant, your nervous system searches for safety. If connection feels unsafe, your brain chooses distance. It reduces exposure, it removes triggers. It tells you that isolation equals peace. And in the beginning, it works. The noise stops, the drama fades, your body relaxes, you feel in control again. That feeling of control is powerful, it feels like strength. You tell yourself you don't need anyone. You convince yourself that peace is better than people. And part of that is true. Peace is essential. But what if the peace you created is actually a shield? What if the strength you feel is really self-defense? When trust breaks too many times, the mind learns a rule: don't let anyone close enough to hurt you again. This rule feels logical. It feels smart. But it was born from pain. Every time you felt ignored, dismissed, or betrayed, your brain made a quiet note. It built a case. And when the evidence felt overwhelming, you delivered the verdict. Access denied. From the outside, people may call you distant, cold, detached. But they did see the internal battle. They did. The exhaustion of always being the one who understands, forgives, adjusts. They did see how many times you tried before you walked away. Here is the truth that changes everything. Cutting everyone off is rarely about not caring. It is about caring too much for too long without feeling safe. It is about protecting your dignity. It is about reclaiming control when you felt powerless. But there is something deeper you need to understand. Self-protection can quietly turn into self-isolation. The same wall that blocks pain can also block love. The same silence that protects your heart can also starve it. If you stay with this message, you will begin to see your behavior not as weakness or pride, but as psychology. You will understand the patterns behind your decisions, and once you understand the pattern, you gain power over it. Because this is not just about why people cut everyone off. This is about you, your peace, your future relationships, your ability to protect yourself without losing connection. You deserve strength that is not built on isolation. You deserve peace that does not require loneliness. And by the end of this journey, you will see how to transform protection into real power. Protection feels powerful because it gives you something you thought you lost: control. When you remove people from your life, you remove unpredictability. No more waiting for replies. No more wondering where you stand. No more decoding mixed signals. Your world becomes smaller, but it also becomes quieter. And your brain loves quiet when it has been living in chaos. Uncertainty creates anxiety. That is not weakness. That is biology. Your nervous system is wired to scan for threats. When relationships feel unstable, your stress response activates. Your heart beats faster. Your thoughts race. You overanalyze. You replay conversations. And when this cycle repeats too many times, your brain looks for the fastest escape route. Cutting people off feels like stepping out of the storm. The relief is real. Cortisol drops. Emotional noise fades. You feel grounded again. That relief teaches your brain a powerful lesson: isolation equals safety. So the next time tension appears, your mind is quicker to withdraw. It does not negotiate. It does not wait. It protects. But here is the truth that demands courage to face. Control is not the same as peace. Control is about eliminating variables. Peace is about strengthening yourself within them. When you shrink your world to avoid uncertainty, you may reduce risk, but you also reduce possibility. Growth lives in possibility. You tell yourself you do not need anyone. That independence becomes part of your identity. It feels strong. It sounds strong. But beneath it is a quiet fear of vulnerability, because needing someone means giving them the power to disappoint you. It means opening a door that could close. And after enough disappointment, that risk feels unacceptable, yet the human nervous system was not designed to regulate alone. Emotional stability is not built in isolation. It is built in safe connection. When you laugh with someone who understands you, your body relaxes. When someone listens without judgment, your mind softens. When you feel seen, your defense is lower. That is not weakness. That is how you are wired. The illusion is believing that cutting everyone off makes you invincible. It may protect you from being hurt by others, but it does not protect you from loneliness. And loneliness does not always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up as restlessness, as overthinking, as the feeling that something is missing even when your life looks calm. You did not choose isolation because you wanted to be alone. You chose it because you wanted stability. You wanted to feel secure in your own space. That desire is valid, but security built only on avoidance is fragile. It depends on keeping everyone at a distance, and the moment someone gets close, the anxiety returns. Real strength is different. It is not about eliminating uncertainty. It is about building the emotional capacity to handle it. It is knowing that even if someone disappoints you, you will not collapse. Even if a connection ends, your identity remains intact. Even if conflict arises, you can face it without disappearing. You are not meant to live in constant defense mode. You are meant to evolve beyond it. And when you understand that control was a coping mechanism, not a destiny, you begin to see another path. A path where you are not ruled by fear of pain, but guided by clarity. A path where you choose connection from strength, not desperation. A path where peace does not require isolation and safety does not demand a closed heart. A new path begins by facing something deeper than control. It begins by facing the wound. Every time you chose distance, there was a reason. Maybe it was betrayal that shattered your trust. Maybe it was neglect that made you feel invisible. Maybe it was repeated disappointment that convinced you your needs were too much. Whatever it was, your mind did not forget. It built beliefs around those experiences, and beliefs quietly shape behavior. When pain repeats, the brain creates rules to prevent it from happening again. Don't trust too easily. Don't rely on anyone. Leave before they leave you. These rules feel intelligent. They feel protective, but they are born from fear, not clarity. Over time, they stop being temporary defenses and start becoming permanent filters. You no longer see people as individuals. You see them through old hurt. This is how defensive detachment forms. It is not hatred, it is anticipation. You expect to be let down, so you withdraw early. You convince yourself that you are just selective. But deep down, you are bracing for impact that has not even happened yet. Your nervous system remembers emotional pain the same way it remembers physical danger. Rejection activates the same survival circuits in your brain as injury. That is why being ignored can feel like a punch. That is why betrayal can feel like something inside you broke. Your body reacts before your logic has a chance to speak. And when the body feels unsafe, it demands protection. So you retreat, you reduce vulnerability. You promise yourself that no one will get that close again. For a moment, it feels empowering. You feel untouchable. But untouchable also means unreachable. Avoidance has a hidden cost. It strengthens the very fear you are trying to escape. Every time you withdraw without testing a new outcome, you reinforce the belief that connection is dangerous. You collect no new evidence. You give your mind no reason to update its rules. The old narrative grows stronger. See? It is better this way. But is it? Look closely at your isolation. Does it truly bring peace, or does it simply numb the risk? Does it expand your life, or does it shrink it? You deserve more than survival. You deserve growth. Healing requires something uncomfortable. It requires measured exposure. It requires allowing small moments of vulnerability to exist again. Not with everyone. Not recklessly. But intentionally. It means understanding that not every disagreement is abandonment. Not every mistake is betrayal. Not every flaw is a threat. Your past experiences were real. Your hurt was valid. Your need for safety makes sense. But your future does not have to be controlled by old pain. The brain is adaptable. New experiences can rewrite old patterns. Safe interactions can weaken fear-based beliefs, but only if you allow them. You are not broken for protecting yourself. You are responding to pain the best way you knew how. That deserves compassion. Yet growth demands evolution. What once kept you safe may now be keeping you small. You are stronger than the wound that shaped you, strong enough to question your assumptions, strong enough to test new boundaries, strong enough to believe that connection, handled wisely, does not have to equal suffering. The distance you created was a shield. Now it is time to decide whether it will remain a wall or become a doorway. A doorway requires something your ego may resist, a new identity. When you have cut people off more than once, it can become part of how you see yourself. You start to believe that you are simply that type of person, the one who tolerates nothing, the one who walks away without hesitation, the one who keeps the circle small and the heart guarded. At first, this identity feels empowering, it feels disciplined. It feels superior to those who keep forgiving and hoping. But look deeper. Identity is powerful because it shapes your decisions automatically. When you see yourself as someone who disappears at the first deep wound, you will continue to disappear. When you define strength as emotional distance, you will protect that distance at all costs, even when it costs you connection. Ego loves certainty. It would rather blame others than question its own defenses. So instead of saying, I was hurt and I am afraid, it says, they did deserve me. That statement protects pride. It keeps your image intact. It allows you to exit without feeling rejected. This is how the mind preserves self-esteem. It shifts the narrative outward. But growth demands honesty, not harsh self-judgment, not shame, just truth. Sometimes the people you cut off were unhealthy, sometimes walking away was necessary, but sometimes the cut-off was a reaction, not a decision. Sometimes it was pride guarding pain, sometimes it was fear disguised as standards. When identity hardens around emotional distance, vulnerability begins to feel like weakness, apologizing feels like surrender, reaching out feels like losing power, and slowly the ego builds a fortress around your heart. Strong walls, clean boundaries. No one gets in without perfection. Perfection, however, is an impossible requirement. Humans disappoint, they misunderstand, they make mistakes. If your standard is flawlessness, you will always be alone. And not because you are superior, but because no one can meet an unrealistic threshold. Real confidence is different. It does not need to escape at the first sign of discomfort. It can face a difficult conversation without collapsing. It can express hurt without burning bridges. It can forgive without lowering self-worth. That kind of confidence is flexible. And psychological flexibility is a marker of true emotional strength. Ask yourself who you want to become. A person defined by distance, or a person defined by discernment. Distance is automatic. Discernment is intentional. Distance reacts. Discernment evaluates. Distance protects through avoidance. Discernment protects through clarity. You can hold boundaries without holding bitterness. You can protect your standards without isolating your soul. You can be selective without being unreachable. Changing your identity begins with changing your story. Instead of I cut people off because I am strong, try I set boundaries because I respect myself. Boundaries allow growth. Walls block everything. Boundaries are communicated. Walls are silent. Boundaries invite understanding. Walls enforce separation. The story you repeat becomes the person you become. If you continue to tell yourself that you thrive alone, you will train your mind to avoid every opportunity for healthy connection. But if you begin to believe that you are capable of both strength and openness, your behavior will shift. Your past reactions do not define your future identity. You are not trapped by old versions of yourself. You can evolve from someone who escapes to someone who engages wisely. And that evolution begins the moment you choose growth over ego, clarity over pride, and connection over fear. Choosing growth over ego forces you to confront something uncomfortable. Every decision carries a cost. Distance protects your heart from immediate pain, but it also removes the possibility of shared strength. When you step back from everyone, you are not only stepping away from conflict, you are stepping away from support, from perspective, from expansion. Human beings are wired for connection, not surface interaction, but meaningful bonds that regulate emotion and sharpen identity. When you isolate completely, you remove the mirrors that help you see yourself clearly. Without honest feedback, blind spots grow. Patterns repeat, unnoticed. You may believe you are evolving, but without reflection from others, growth can become an illusion. Loneliness does not always appear as sadness. Sometimes it shows up as restlessness, sometimes as irritability, sometimes as a quiet sense that something is missing even when everything seems calm. You might tell yourself you prefer your own company. And sometimes solitude is healthy. Solitude builds clarity. It strengthens independence. But permanent emotional exile is different. It is not clarity. It is contraction. There is also a physical reality to isolation. Chronic disconnection increases stress inside the body. The nervous system remains on guard. Without safe relationships to co-regulate your emotions, your mind carries every burden alone. Celebration feels muted when there is no one to witness it. Pain feels heavier when it echoes in silence. And then there is opportunity. Every person you cut off might not have been meant to stay. But among the flawed and imperfect, there are those capable of loyalty, understanding, and growth alongside you. When your default setting is exit, you may never discover who was willing to meet you halfway. You close doors before testing their strength. This is not about lowering your standards. It is about understanding that standards and isolation are not the same. High standards protect your values. Isolation protects your fear. They may look similar from the outside, but inside they feel different. One empowers. The other restricts. Imagine the version of you who is strong enough to stay present in discomfort without immediately withdrawing. Imagine being able to say that hurt instead of disappearing. Imagine having people in your life who know your boundaries because you communicated them, not because you vanished. The cost of constant distance is not just loneliness. It is the gradual shrinking of possibility, fewer deep conversations, fewer shared victories, fewer chances to learn from difference. Life becomes controlled but smaller. You deserve a life that is expansive, not just safe. Safety matters, but safety without connection becomes a cage made of your own decisions. The goal is not to swing to the other extreme and trust blindly. The goal is balance. Intentional connection conscious evaluation, courage to repair when repair is possible. When you understand the cost, you gain power. Because awareness transforms reaction into choice, you no longer cut people off automatically. You pause, you assess. You ask whether you are protecting your peace or protecting an old wound. This awareness is maturity. It is emotional intelligence in action. And it moves you closer to a life where strength is measured not by how many people you remove, but by how wisely you choose who remains. Wisely choosing who remains requires something deeper than standards. It requires courage. Not loud courage, not dramatic declarations. Quiet courage. The kind that shows up in difficult conversations. The kind that stays when every instinct tells you to disappear. Your brain is wired to repeat what feels familiar. If your pattern has been to withdraw at the first sign of emotional threat, your nervous system will push you to do it again. It will tell you that leaving is strength, that silence is dignity, that distance is power. But growth asks you to pause in that moment and question the impulse. Ask yourself what is truly happening. Are you facing genuine disrespect? Or are you reacting to a trigger from your past? Is this person violating your values, or are they simply imperfect? That pause changes everything. It separates trauma from reality. It separates fear from discernment. Reconnection does not mean opening your heart to everyone. It means allowing space for safe people to prove themselves over time. Trust is not blind. It is built. Slowly, consistently, through repeated evidence. And that process demands patience. You may fear that staying present in conflict will weaken you. In truth, it strengthens emotional resilience. When you express discomfort calmly instead of withdrawing, you teach your nervous system that confrontation is survivable. When you communicate boundaries clearly instead of cutting ties instantly, you teach yourself that you can protect your peace without burning bridges. This is emotional intelligence in motion, recognizing your triggers, naming your feelings, choosing response over reaction. It is not about suppressing hurt. It is about channeling it wisely. Hurt can become clarity. Disappointment can become communication. Tension can become growth. You are not weak for wanting connection. You are human. Every part of your biology is designed for meaningful bonds. The desire to feel understood, respected, and valued is not a flaw. It is a need. And denying that need does not make you stronger. It only makes you harder. Courage also means forgiving yourself for the times you left too quickly. Maybe you thought walking away was your only option. Maybe you did not yet have the tools to stay. Growth is not about punishing your past self. It is about equipping your present self. Each time you choose to stay grounded instead of retreating, you rewrite your internal script. Each time you speak your truth without aggression or avoidance, you build a new neural pathway. Your brain learns that connection does not automatically equal danger. Your body learns that vulnerability does not equal destruction. This transformation will feel uncomfortable at first. Discomfort is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that you are stretching beyond all limits, that you are expanding your capacity. You do not have to rebuild every bridge. Some doors are meant to stay closed, but you also do not have to live in a fortress. A fortress keeps enemies out, but it also traps you inside. True power is not in isolation. It is in balance. A steady heart, clear boundaries, open communication. The strength to walk away when necessary, and the strength to stay when growth is possible. This is how you evolve from someone who cuts everyone off to someone who connects with intention, not ruled by fear, not driven by ego. Guided by clarity, self-respect, and the courage to choose connection without losing yourself. The ultimate evolution is moving from isolation to intentional selectivity. This is where strength transforms into wisdom. You no longer react out of fear or old patterns. You no longer disappear to prove you are untouchable. Instead, you choose who enters your life, and you choose it from clarity, not impulse. This is empowerment at its highest form. Selectivity is not about judgment. It is about discernment. It is the ability to observe, evaluate, and decide who deserves your energy. It is knowing that not everyone is safe, but some people are worthy. You maintain boundaries without building walls. You protect your peace without closing the door to possibility. This is a skill, a discipline, and a mindset that creates freedom instead of restriction. When you become selective, every interaction carries weight because you approach it consciously. Conversations are not just exchanges. They are opportunities to test trust. Connections are not automatic, they are earned and chosen. The nervous system begins to relax because safety is no longer assumed or violated, it is actively created. You no longer rely on distance to protect yourself. You rely on clarity, on wisdom, on intentional action. This is liberation. You stop running from people. You stop avoiding discomfort. You stop hiding behind silence. Instead, you engage where it matters. You withdraw where it does tea. And you remain firm in your standards without punishing your heart. You allow love, friendship, and collaboration to exist alongside protection because you have learned that the two are not mutually exclusive. Selectivity strengthens your self-worth. You no longer need isolation to prove value. You maintain relationships that respect your boundaries and align with your principles. You release those that repeatedly violate your trust without drama or regret. Each decision is deliberate. Each choice honors your peace. Each relationship becomes a reflection of your discernment rather than your fear. When your energy is intentional, your life expands. You invite growth, challenge, joy, understanding into your space while keeping toxicity at bay. You are no longer a passive participant in your own story. You are the author. Every connection, every boundary, every interaction is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. And that intentionality produces a quiet power, one that cannot be shaken by rejection or disappointment. Balance becomes your new strength. You protect yourself without isolating your soul. You set limits without shutting down your heart. You are present without losing yourself. You understand that connection is not weakness, vulnerability is not failure, and boundaries are not walls, they are tools for thriving. Each day you practice this skill. Each choice reinforces it. Each moment strengthens the version of you that is courageous, wise, and fully alive. This is what it means to transform from someone who cuts everyone off into someone who connects selectively. You are no longer defined by fear, past wounds, or ego-driven defense. You are defined by clarity, resilience, and intention. You choose when to engage, when to protect, and when to let go. And in that choice lies true freedom, true peace, and the extraordinary power to live a life where your heart is neither compromised nor confined. Every step toward selectivity is a step toward mastery over yourself. It is the ability to feel deeply, care consciously, and act intentionally without being ruled by fear or old wounds. You no longer measure strength by how many doors you close, but by how wisely you open the right ones. You are no longer proving independence, you are claiming freedom. And freedom does not come from isolation. It comes from balance, from clarity, from knowing when to stay and when to walk away. The power of intentional connection is subtle but transformative. When you engage with people who respect your boundaries, honor your values, and meet you halfway, your nervous system relaxes. You stop bracing for impact. You stop scanning for betrayal in every conversation. You stop building walls that trap you in fear. Your body begins to trust again. Your mind begins to see that closeness does not always equal harm, that vulnerability does not always equal failure, and that love and support are not threats, they are fuel for growth. This is where courage becomes visible. Not in dramatic gestures, but in everyday choices, saying no when something violates your boundaries. Yes, when someone demonstrates integrity, remaining present during tension without retreating, speaking your truth without aggression. Each decision rewires your internal landscape. Each action teaches your mind that strength and openness can coexist. Each choice reminds your heart that it is safe to feel deeply. Discernment becomes your compass. You learn to read people not just through words, but through patterns, consistency, and alignment with your values. You allow your energy to flow where it is respected. And you withdraw it where it is ignored or violated, but without resentment, without guilt, without the reflexive need to disappear. You are no longer a prisoner of past pain or automatic reaction. You are the curator of your life, selecting what enters and what remains outside. This intentional approach transforms your entire perception of connection. Relationships are no longer chaotic or draining. They become mirrors, teachers, and sources of shared strength. Conflict is no longer a threat, but an opportunity to practice resilience and clarity. Vulnerability is no longer dangerous, but a tool for growth. Boundaries are no longer barriers, but bridges that guide people towards safe, meaningful interaction. Strength, finally, is defined not by how much you avoid, but by how wisely you engage. Power is no longer in isolation, it is in choice. It is in showing up consistently without losing yourself. It is in discerning with precision, protecting without aggression, and connecting without fear. Every connection you allow becomes an investment, every boundary a declaration of self-respect, and every decision an act of courage. Your life expands because your energy is no longer scattered. Your peace grows because your choices are intentional. Your heart strengthens because it learns that connection is not a gamble, but a disciplined practice. You are no longer at the mercy of fear or old patterns. You are guided by clarity, integrity, and the courage to remain fully present in a world that will always test your boundaries. This is the ultimate evolution from cutting everyone off to connecting selectively. It is the transformation from reaction to choice, from fear to wisdom, from survival to thriving. It is the embodiment of power that is quiet, steady, and unshakable, a power born not from isolation, but from deliberate, courageous, and intentional connection.